Oh no, not Mr. Bump. Him and his bumps. Hey, Twilight. I'm making a new storyteller's making a new project called We Georgia with the Back Engine and Friends. Oh, that's great, Spike. The Georgia Wood Society will love this. Years of Mr. Men, Australia. Episode 4. Mr. Bump. This is the sad story of Mr. Bump. The trouble was that Mr. Bump just could not help having little accidents. If there was something for Mr. Bump to bump into, he'd bump into it all right. For instance, if you were to see Mr. Bump out walking down the street in your town, and if there happened to be something to bump into down that street, then you'll know what will happen. Bang! Bump! Mr. Bump was just the same at home. He lived in a house in the village, but even there, he just couldn't help having those little accidents. For instance, one morning when Mr. Bump went outside his house, he noticed that the chimney pot had come loose in the storm the night before. I must fix that before it falls off, thought Mr. Bump to himself, and he hurried off to his garden shed to fetch a ladder. It was a very long ladder. Mr. Bump walked up the path with the ladder on his shoulder. He turned the corner of the garden path. Crash went the first glass on the window. Oh dear, thought Mr. Bump, and he turned to see what had happened. Crash went the second. Mr. Bump set the ladder on the roof side, away from the window, so he could climb on the roof to mend the chimney pot. Oops. That's a daisy. So you can see how Mr. Bump had his little accidents. Mr. Bump had many jobs, but somehow they never seemed to last very long. As soon as anything got lost, or broken, or splintered, or chipped, or snapped, or cracked, Mr. Bump, whoops, torn, burst, wrenched, or crunched, or split and slit. Guess who got the blame? He swung the sail. For instance, when Mr. Bump worked in the docks, he slipped on the stick boat. Oh! And dropped the fish. The dispatcher didn't think this was the right job for him. For instance, when Mr. Bump was a train driver, he fell out of pursuit after he bumped the regulator and the fireman had to put it back to stop mode. For instance, when Mr. Bump was a bus conductor, he fell off Bertie. He couldn't catch him up, and the passengers travelled without having to pay. In order to recover from this series of rather unexpected happenings, Mr. Bump decided to take a holiday. There, he could think about what sort of a job he should do where he wouldn't be such a bother to anybody. While Mr. Bump was on holiday, several things happened. For instance, he fell off a boat into the sea, and a tugboat like Sunshine had to come and help him. For instance, one day when he was walking along the beach minding his own business, he had a chip on the stick. And as he tripped, he fell in some pit he didn't see while walking. However, despite all these little accidents, Mr. Bump enjoyed his holiday, and while he was there, he had a splendid idea about what sort of a job he could do. It was quite the best idea Mr. Bump had ever had. A really splendid idea. And now, Mr. Bump works happily for Tilly, the little blue engine. Tilly had an apple orchard on her branch line, and that's where Mr. Bump works. Mr. Bump's job is picking apples, but he doesn't use a ladder to climb up a tree and pick them like other apple pickers. Oh no. Oh, Mr. Bump's a much better way of picking apples than that. He just walks about, and before long Mr. Bump, being himself, walks into a tree. Bob. Down falls an apple, and Mr. Bump catches it. This makes the job of apple picking much easier. Tilly was glad he was doing this very well. So you'll see, the story of Mr. Bump isn't such a sad story after all, is it?